Now let's really fix my crown and get started. Hello, and welcome to yet another video. So in approximately 2010, I came across an image on Tumblr of a young woman who looked simultaneously like a toddler and a grandmother. And I was instantly intrigued. At the time, I was a young teenager exploring the duality of man, or blogging pictures of My Chemical Romance and Super Hulock edits, while simultaneously posting pictures of triangles superimposed over galaxy print. It's actually impossible to over-exaggerate the importance of galaxy print at this time. Lana Del Rey was still 2 years out from releasing Born to Die. And if you're younger than me, you're probably really jealous right now. Anyway, back to this enigmatic teenager sitting front row at New York Fashion Week. I would come to learn that this was Tavi Gevinson, internet wonderkid and veteran fashion blogger at just age 14. Tavi Gevinson, the work she created, and the artists and authors that she would introduce me to over the following years had a massive impact on my life, as well as thousands of other girls living in a post-indie sleaze, pre-TikTok society. We had not yet completely obliterated the meaning of the word aesthetic. In this video, we'll be discussing Tavi Gevinson, the Style Rookie, and most importantly, Rookie magazine, as well as the impact it had on a micro-generation of teenage girls and the hole it left in our internet landscape. Gevinson was born in Chicago, Illinois, and raised in the suburb of Oak Park. Her father was an English teacher, and her mother was a weaver and part-time Hebrew instructor. In 2008, when Tavi was 11 years old, she started her blog, The Style Rookie. Her first post states simply, "Well, I am new here. Lately, I've been really interested in fashion, and I like to make binders and slideshows of high fashion modeling and designs. I'd like to know of neat websites and magazines, so comments are welcome. I plan on posting pictures in the future, but for now, I'm just getting started. Yours truly, Tavi." From middle school through her teenage years, Tavi would continue to post regularly on her blog. Visually, her content was a combination of outfit spreads, photos, collages, artwork, and scans of magazines and fashion spreads. She'd accompany these images with text ranging from casual updates about her day to essays on various designers, Greek mythology, and Courtney Love.
Aesthetically cataloging things the way that I do with my room and my little books and my blog. For some reason, I've just always felt very inclined to, that's how I organize the world. And so having a blog seemed like the most convenient way to do that.
By 2009, Tavi Gevinson was already featured in publications and was regularly attending shows at New York Fashion Week and beyond. I actually think I must have first seen her at the Marc Jacobs Fall 2010 runway show because I vividly remember this turquoise gray hair and pink flower combo. However, I'm realizing it actually may have been a similar event that she attended around the same time where she had this giant pink bow on her head. I remember this vividly because people complained at the time that their view of the runway was obstructed by her fascinator. Regardless, it was around the same period. Gevinson was a controversial figure in the fashion world. Adults who had spent years trying to make a name for themselves in the industry were, perhaps justifiably so to an extent, jealous of this literal child who seemingly gained quick entrance into this very exclusive club. When a teenage Tavi was hired at Harper's Bazaar, Anne Slowey of Elle called the decision, quote, gimmicky. People doubted her legitimacy. How could an actual child from the suburbs of Illinois break into the fashion world with such a specific, dedicated viewpoint without the resources, education, or experience?
There's no question that Tavi has won over the fashion crowd and is being taken seriously by most of the industry. Harper's Bazaar asked her to write a column for them, and she was recently the subject of a feature in French Vogue.
I think she's kind of become an arbiter of fashion just because she's so unexpected. You see this kind of precocious girl backstage amongst this sea of adults, people who are, running around screaming and shouting, and you see her just she brings a levity to Fashion Week that's really nice.
By the time Tavi was in her mid to late teens, she was considered well experienced in the fashion industry and, ironically, a veteran blogger. And at age 15, well into her career at this point, she announced her next venture, Rookie magazine. I actually didn't know this at the time, but Rookie was originally launched in association with Jane Pratt, the founding editor of Sassy. And for those of you who are unaware, Sassy was a teen magazine that ran from 1988 to 1996. It differed from other publications aimed at young women with the intention of being a feminist counterpoint to other teen mags. Probably the most iconic cover of Sassy is this one with Kurt Cobain and Courtney Love, which incidentally I saw for the first time via the Style Rookie. And I've been looking for a cardigan like Kurt's ever since. Gevinson, Pratt, and Say Media began negotiations, with This American Life's Ira Glass randomly acting as consultant to Tavi and her father/manager Steve during this time. Eventually, Pratt withdrew from the venture, leaving Tavi to maintain ownership of Rookie Mag moving forward. Rookie officially launched the following year in September of 2011. I think the do-it-yourself attitude of Rookie really made all the difference. I remember reading other publications like Nylon and Teen Vogue at the time, which presented themselves as, let's say, 17's worldlier, wiser, and perhaps more chronically online cousin. However, there was always going to be a separation between the reader and the publication itself because it was staffed by professional writers, journalists, photographers, artists, and stylists. By contrast, Rookie was populated by reader submissions. Anyone could submit their piece and potentially see it in a future issue.
Now you're sort of taking that energy and putting something out there for teens with Rookie, your online magazine. What made you want to move more in that direction?
Well, I just kind of felt, I love, like Teen Vogue. I love the site Hello Giggles. But I felt like there was a voice that I didn't identify with totally as much, and I felt like there must be other people who kind of feel that way. So I just tried to create it.
Additionally, there were regular contributors to the publication, including Jenny Zhang, Petra Collins, Gabby Noon, and Emma Straub. I thought it would be fun when I was researching this video to go through all of the published artists and writers on Rookie and see how many of them went on to have professional careers as artists, writers, creators, etc. But it actually got to be too much for me. It's kind of fascinating to go through the Rookie Mag archives and see just how many people got their start through this publication and went on to do such amazing work. The Petra Collins aesthetic itself has become so well-known and ubiquitous. This photo shoot launched 1,000 reblogs. And now we see her style being imitated by shows like Euphoria, and Petra Collins has worked with so many celebrities and famous brands, and it's amazing to think that a lot of this started on Rookie. Each month, Rookie would present its audience with a theme. These range from topics like secrets, obsession, and transformation to a world of our own, the great unknown, and dream life. The publication initially posted 3 times a day: after school, at dinner time, and, quote, when it's really late and you should be writing a paper but are Facebook stalking instead. There were many regularly occurring posts on Rookie, which included playlists, interviews, photo shoots, and essays. So with that being said, let's take a more in-depth look at Rookie's content, which is separated into various categories on the site. Style and beauty-related posts remain hugely popular on Rookie throughout its publication. There were lookbooks, style tips, DIYs. It's actually quite charming to go through this category and see these looks because they're just so representative of a certain time. And I feel like we should go back to this sort of fun, creative, free style. In the tech category, Rookie regularly released downloadable images such as phone and computer wallpapers created by Rookie contributors. Of course, there were also sections dedicated to books, music, film, and television. Not only did the book category include recommended reading, but it also contained interviews with authors and excerpts from new books. Movies and TV, of course, contained both film and television recommendations, as well as character style guides and plenty of interviews. The music section in particular was extremely important to me as a teenager. This included the weekly Friday playlists, where I learned of so many artists and songs that I still listen to this day. The friendship category contained both text and image posts, including photo albums, fiction, essays, and advice columns. Rookie also had this adorable regular feature called Friend Crush, which showcased an interview between 2 best friends about their relationship. As a teenage girl, the sex and love category on Rookie was endlessly illuminating and helpful. I imagine this was the case for most readers at the time. As a publication by and for teenage girls, there were very frank conversations being had on Rookie about birth control, the importance of Planned Parenthood, breakups. There were how-tos on how to tell your crush that you liked them that felt like very sage advice from a best friend's wise older sister. Rookie contained a lot of advice in general. There was astrological advice, advice from regular contributors, as well as the ever-popular Ask a Grown Man and Ask a Grown Woman series, where celebrities like Cyndi Lauper, Carly Rae Jepsen, Terry Crews, Stephen Colbert, and many, many more fielded questions from readers. And finally, there was the Live Through This category. Primarily, the posts that were archived as Live Through This were personal, relatable essays with titles such as When Whiteness Alienated Me, Art Saved Me, An Anxious Person's Guide to Public Speaking, and To Sufjan Stevens. These also include the letters from the editor posted by Tavi at the beginning of the month. In her very first letter, she writes, "Rookie is not your guide to being a teen. It is not a pamphlet on how to be a young woman. If it were, it would be published by American Girl and your aunt would have given it to you in the 5th grade. It is, quite simply, a bunch of writing and art we like and believe in. While there's always danger in generalizing a whole group of people, I do think some experiences are somewhat universal to being a teenager, specifically a female one. Rookie is a place to make the best of the beautiful pain and cringeworthy awkwardness of being an adolescent girl. When it becomes harder to appreciate these things, we also have good plain fun and visual pleasure. When you're sick of having to be happy all the time, we have lots of eye-rolling rants too." It's interesting to jump around in these editors' letters, to watch this young woman grow and change month by month. Out of curiosity, I went to a later letter that was posted around the time when Tavi and I, who are the same age, would have been entering our final year of college. Maybe that's okay, to grow into someone different from who you expected, to even become the kind of adult you swore you'd never be, granted that that adult is not a corrupt evildoer. Like, if you can't fight time and must literally grow up or die, you can still find other ways to be raw and passionate and imaginative and not as fatally repressed and scared as the modern world would like us all to be. Death is my favorite card in the tarot because it really stands for rebirth. Not endings or finality, but ongoingness, to use Sarah Manguzo's word. Many years later, when I find myself running to Marshall's or the grocery store in my flared leggings and knockoff Uggs, when I quite literally wore red lipstick almost every single day of my senior year of high school, I still find this sentiment to be prescient. Also, a tangent. As I was scrolling through the Live Through This category on the Rookie archives, I noticed that it also contained the Infinity Diaries, a series of personal essays penned by Tavi herself in 2016. These posts, although I highly doubt it has ever been confirmed, were about Ezra Koenig, who she allegedly dated in 2016 when she was around 18 and he was around 30. I was very, very big into the Vampire Weekend fandom in high school, and I just highly recommend reading this if you're going through anything of your own situationship right now. This really shook me to my core back in 2016. A lot of things did at that time. But I thought it might be nice, maybe interesting, to just read you a portion of that now. Whenever I feel nostalgic, I try to remember that what I really want is not to go back, but what I have now. The image, the memory. Isn't that picture a writer's friend more than any gibberish feeling? Today, though, that feels untrue. He said that by ending it now, we can avoid falling in love. I wanted to tell him it's too late for me. I am sad because I'd recalibrated my brain in order to open my heart, and now those efforts seem futile. A year ago, I would have claimed how much my love is a reflection of me. That thing where you make a defense mechanism seem like self-empowerment. But now I'd like to know I actually connected with someone. Writing about this at all feels like a betrayal to him and to my own desire to graduate from vampiric tendencies. Later, she writes about a conversation she has with a friend named Taylor about this whole situation, which may or may not be imagined. Taylor, he's like Christian Grey. Me. Yes, but so am I. Or rather, I was also told that he made a joke to his friends about needing a girlfriend who dresses in a way that doesn't embarrass him in public, which I'm like, gross, man. But also, I have known myself to have a concern for the picturesque. Or rather, what would that be like to be so committed to the values that years and years of literature have taught us only make you unhappy? Surely I'm not immune to the fantasy of being image-based. Why not find out this thing about myself by dating the exact kind of boy person who would have been repelled by me in middle school? Taylor. Right. Me. But he texts me, and I think I can match whatever sociopathy is in store and start reading The Secret History and half-jokingly write the outline for an essay called The Sociopath's Manifesto to gear myself up for recklessness. But I never actually finished it, and also didn't realize at the time that the characters in The Secret History aren't just beautiful creative people, they're murderers? So yeah, maybe I did just read that to you because she mentions The Secret History, but also I do think it's really good writing. But yeah, she does mention The Secret History, which is my favorite book. Anyways, I hope this little snippet has actually convinced you to go back and read this. In 2012, Rookie Yearbook 1 was released. This was a physical compilation of the best content from Rookie's first year, including essays, interviews, photographs, stickers, and art. This release was accompanied by a United States tour with Tavi Gevinson known as Rookie Road Trip, with meetups including zine making, homemade banner DIYs, and more.
Dozens of teenage fashionistas have come together to show off their style. Eat some sweets.
Like yourself is a definite thing.
Get in on some growing pain advice. Listen to live music. And meet Tavi.
Rookie continued to release 3 additional yearbooks, as well as Rookie on Love, 45 Voices on Romance, Friendship, and Self-Care. These were also accompanied by book tours and fan meetups. Finally, in November of 2018, Rookie announced its impending closure. Due to the changing media landscape, Rookie would have had to find new sources of funding, which, after exploring the possibilities available at the time, did not fit with its founder and editor's approach. After nearly a decade of publication, Rookie would cease to create content by and for teenage girls. Rookie had been a near constant presence in my life throughout most of my teenage years, and although I had begun to grow up and move on, it saddened me to think that future generations wouldn't find their own creative voices and make a name for themselves on the bylines of a Rookie Mag post. As I've discussed throughout this video, Rookie deeply impacted me on a personal level. I made friends through our shared interest in the magazine, I made my own flower crowns and tried manicure DIYs, and I discovered media that I still care deeply about to this day, like Twin Peaks and Daria and Ghost World. As Edie Fine wrote in the Science Survey, Gevinson intended to create a digital space that was welcoming to all voices, and that was not precluded by the censorship and mass market dilution that a normal online publication would have. Rookie writers did not sacrifice authenticity for accessibility to the masses. Rookie Mag was created to be a living space for teenage girls, and, as the space evolved, for all teen creatives who needed a venue for their expression, to explore their worlds, feelings, confusion, anger, angst, love, and questions. In essence, it became a community for outcasted teens to find somewhere they belonged. I lament the fact that there isn't an online space like this today, although I am no longer a teenager and therefore not the target audience, so what do I know? On the legacy of Rookie, Sophie Wilson at Teen Vogue wrote, "In many ways, Rookie was a harbinger for the main character energy that has taken over TikTok today. It encouraged readers to go out and do things on their own, to aestheticize their lives. Going for a milkshake after school or sitting at the skate park was transformed from a mundane suburban pastime to an integral part of the teen experience." In reading this, I wondered, why then does what happened on Rookie feel so different from what's happening on TikTok today? I agree, the goal was to romanticize and aestheticize your life, and beyond that, to document it. And although a lot of those dreamy photographs posted to Rookie were documented on film, it's not as though we didn't have smartphones at the time. I think the big difference, though, is where those thoughts and images ended up living. You could submit to Rookie, you could post on Tumblr, and you could get recognition there. Instagram was in its infancy, and no one could have predicted the influencer landscape of today. There was no TikTok, and there certainly wasn't the like economy that we currently exist in. So, in some ways, you're making art for art's sake. And I'm not saying that content creators today can't enjoy what they're creating. I certainly do. But there wasn't this inescapable, almost unpreventable feeling that I think many of us have today. That feeling when you post of, what if this blows up? What if this goes viral? What if I can quit my day job and become an influencer? I feel like an old man yelling at a cloud when I say that times were simpler back then, but in some ways they were. Online spaces felt more intimate, and if you had met someone that shared that same digital space in real life, it felt like you both somehow found the same hidden gate to the same secret garden. Rookie, in many ways, did what it set out to do in that initial editor's letter. It helped me embrace the beautiful pain and cringeworthy awkwardness of being an adolescent girl. Now the teenagers of today romanticize being a teenager in the 2010s, and I would say rightfully so. I mean, Addison Rae literally wishes. I had so much fun researching for this video and browsing through the Rookie archives. I spent hours going through old posts, and it felt very similar to going through a box of old photographs kept under the bed or in the attic. And whether you were there when the ancient texts were written, or you're just learning about Rookie through this video, I highly encourage you to go and do the same. And that's going to be it for me today. I hope you enjoyed learning a bit more about Tavi Gevinson and the lasting impact of Rookie Mag. This month's highlighted organization is going to be the Amicus Center for Immigrant Rights. They engage in unwavering legal defense and strategic litigation for immigrant children and adults facing detention and deportation. As always, please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.